Hey everybody, Ken Plume here with a brand new edition of Just a Few Things, which is one of the many different shows with varying formats that I have to try and keep straight in these introductions. And this one is where I have a very special guest on, and they share some very personal, cherished objects in their collections, and we have a little conversation about those objects. And for this episode, I have a very special guest who has done so many things. The Dead Eyes podcast, Tiny Dinos, the Connor Ratliff presents the acting class, which is an incredible live show and channel you should go subscribe to. Go check it out. He's also known for the George Lucas talk show and numerous appearances on so much media that you've been on. Connor Ratliff, thank you for being on the show.
So much media. Too much media, perhaps, and yet also not enough.
I mean,
Somehow.
Right now, if you were just to assemble clips for your reel, how long would your reel be? Let's figure about 30 seconds a clip.
Well, I mean, like the current reel that I have professionally, you as you're making a reel as an actor, there are things you hold on to, and then as a mark of both getting older and changing physically, certain things start dropping off, and there's a point where you're like, well, we got to lose that. It's too old a clip, so you try to keep.
I think you need to keep everything
current.
From your childhood on there. You show the range.
It would be great. It would be great if I could just start at the beginning and go from my preschool magic show to all the way up to the most recent Instagram Live or something. And
give them an option. You have your current reel and you have your retrospective reel.
Yeah. I mean, it can be daunting when you realize how much we live in an age where I think one of the central, it's a good problem to have, but I think it does cause a certain amount of anxiety in people and in the culture at large, is that now that we have so much access to entertainment, there's just so much to watch that everything you do is you're actively choosing to not watch a million other things. Every moment, I'm very aware of the fact that anytime I'm asking someone to watch something, come to a show that I'm doing, I'm asking them to do that instead of watching the 100 greatest movies ever made. Or
you're asking you're cutting in line.
Yeah, and it's too big an ask. You start to realize, and you also start to feel it's hard choosing what to watch now that you have almost unlimited options. I find myself drawn towards things like how the Criterion Channel, it's a great streamer, and one of the things I like is that stuff goes away. So every month, one of the things I check is what's leaving at the end of the month, and it will prompt me to finally start watching something that has been on my
it's been sitting there for years. It may have been even on the Criterion Channel ready for you to watch for years, but when that clock is actually palpably ticking in front of you,
it's a way of revving up that choice, it just gives you a sense of urgency. I have to watch this now, and I'm also at the age where I'm very much, every time I'm watching something, it's potential. I have a mindset of if I'm rewatching something that I haven't seen in a long time, I sort of think, oh, this might be the last time I watch this, that there are certain things that I imagine I'll watch again and again and again. That's sort of the optimism, the hope that you have many shining decades of life left to live. But sometimes you're watching something, I'm like, there will come a point where I watch, Gremlins, and I'll be like, I don't think I'm going to watch Gremlins for the next 10 years.
And you don't want your last regret also to be, I didn't finish it. I only watched half of Gremlins.
I started, there's a thing that happens, when things go away when the month changes over and the streamers will change what they have. There's a period where, I'm on East Coast time and it's midnight, but I realize, it won't go away till Pacific time. So there's 3 more hours. And I had the experience the other day of, I was just looking on Criterion, what's going away within the next 3 hours? What do I need to watch right now? And one of the things was a movie I'd never seen, which was the John Carpenter, Chevy Chase movie, Memoirs of an Invisible Man, which is, I never really wanted to see it. I had plenty of opportunity to see it. I've never wanted to see it.
I've seen it too many times. It was an HBO staple at a time when that was the dumping ground for films that weren't seen in theaters, but HBO, and I saw it. It's one of those assembled films to where you'd watch 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, maybe catch the beginning, maybe catch the middle, maybe catch the end on HBO. So I've probably seen bits and pieces of it dozens of times.
I caught the beginning of it thinking, am I going to watch this from like 1:30 in the morning until 2:30 until 3:30 in the morning? Am I going to like squeeze this in before it goes away? And I watched the first probably 10 to 15 minutes of it, and then I let it go. I was just like, I'm never gonna finish it.
It is such a weird pivot point potential in his career. You know, those points where you look at a project and go, this could have been a reinvention point if you had just had the confidence to stick with it, or it had performed successfully and encouraged you to continue down that path.
Yeah.
Because it was really Chevy attempting at a point when his career was in serious flux to go, hey, can I be different than the caricature that I'm becoming of what I was as a younger actor and star?
Yeah.
And he didn't. He backed away from it.
Answer pretty definitively cleared based on what I saw. It was interesting watching someone who, you know, in his best work has this certain quality that's, you know, sarcastic and, you know, charming in a sometimes repellent way. And then seeing, can he just play this character, and can he do that without relying on his bag of tricks? And it just seemed like, no, there's kind of nothing there. It really felt like watching someone trying to do something. And when you feel like you're watching someone trying to do something, you're ultimately watching them failing because you're so focused on the trying. When you watch someone actually do something, they're successfully trying. But when you're watching someone, it very much feels like a point where, oh, he's trying to do a thing. Anyway, that's an example of where my mind is currently in terms of time slipping away, trying to make good choices. I think stopping that movie and getting an extra hour and a half of sleep was a good choice.
But you're always going to wonder, is there a moment, is there a scene where he pulled it off?
You know,
where the magic trick was successful?
There's a time when I would have wondered that, but now I feel like I've reached an age where I can kind of, the odds that there was something more, I feel, are slim.
I can let you know that there was no point in that film that he ever pulled it off. So you're good. You made the right decision. You got the sleep.
Yeah.
It was, and you never have to see Chevy. So you never have to have that awkward conversation.
Nope.
You might see John Carpenter. I could see John Carpenter being a guest on the talk show at some point. I can see Patrick making that phone call.
Yeah, we would. I cannot imagine a scenario in which we would invite Chevy Chase on the George Lucas talk show.
No.
We know how that goes.
I can imagine him wandering in from the cold for a warm spot.
Truly, there are people, you know, every now and then, you know, Patrick, the booker for the George Lucas talk show, our producer, will be stressing about guests. And I will every now and then say, you know, we don't need guests. We could just do a show where it's George and Watto and just, you know, not have any guests. And I think there are guests that I would opt, like, no, let's just do a guestless show. We'll talk to the audience, you know, like we've had a show, at least one show, not many, where the guest is so bad that it sort of doesn't ruin the show, but it makes us have to change the show into something else. And the lesson you sort of learn once you have one show like that is like, it's not a phenomenon you want to repeat. It's interesting if it happens once, but it's not something you strive for. And that there are guests who are so bad that no guest is a better option. You know, just an empty couch is like a more entertaining thing.
Yeah, well, you don't want to have to continue being in crisis mode for the entirety of it in managing what they're doing on stage or to the energy in the room.
Yeah.
And I can already think of some of the shows that you might be thinking of on that.
There's one in particular.
And I think that's the strength of you all as a unit, as a performance unit, that you are able to carry that energy yourselves. Mm-hmm. Because also with the format of having guests that may not be familiar with the format at all, that really do feel like Patrick just picked them up and said, listen, it's going to be a surprise. You just walk out on stage and roll with it.
Yeah.
And you can see some of that deer in the headlights of them not quite being able to gel with that. Or them being in their own crisis mode of shutting down and staying in their own lane and not merging with you all. I'm going to find a metaphor that works for this.
Yeah. I mean, fortunately, like the show itself has a solid enough infrastructure that it is like it's like a highway, and a car can drive on it. You can have a car wreck, but it doesn't ruin the highway. You know,
what's fascinating in going to, the documentary, I'm George Lucas, being the sort of a brilliant snapshot of a show in transition because of global events, is what the pandemic lockdown did for gelling you all as a unit and being able to find that comedy within yourselves really seemed to reshape the show and your relationship to each other and to the format.
And the audience's relationship to the show.
Because you're existing in a vacuum at that point of just really playing off of each other.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because thinking back to when they were filming the documentary, that we'd been doing the show for, I think, 5 years or so at that point, and once a month, and seldom more than once a month. Every now and then there'd be an away show or something, but
it was a local show. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it was an in-residence local show.
It was a local show, and we would do a Comic-Con show every now and then. We'd go to LA and do shows. I did a show in London. There were various times where we'd do it away, but it mostly was 12 times a year. And if it was ever more than 12, it was never more than 20. You know, it was always, and then suddenly we're doing, hundreds of hours of show over the course of the pandemic. And there was a point where we had done more hours of the show than there are hours of The Simpsons to watch. And which seems unfathomable, but you're like, oh yeah, because they do, 30 minutes a week, not even 30 minutes minus commercials for, decades, but it takes a long time for 30 minutes to catch up with, hundreds of hours.
And you're also getting, I mean, it just for the show in that period, and for those finding the show in that period, to have this sort of bubble of feeling that not only was the audience needing that entertainment and enjoying that entertainment, but you could tell that you all emotionally needed that connection, which you could tell by how long the streams would go on,
right,
and not want to end.
Yeah, or not be able to end. Sometimes we just weren't able to end them, because there was a point where there'd be fundraising reason to keep going, or there would be a point where you would just realize the second we stop the show, I just got to get cleaned up, and then we're just sort of there. I'm not doing anything.
You're back to that liminal space.
Yeah. Which I know for Griffin was even smaller. I was at least in my parents' house in the Midwest. I could go out for a drive. I could go to the park in a way that was harder for him in the city,
I mean, Griffin, increasingly as the months went by, was just cocooned by Watto merchandise and Taco Bell to a point where it's like we need to keep the show going or check in on him, or both.
I mean, it's a big part of the reason why, not just the format of the show, in that we did do a live stream for the LA fires at the beginning of 2025, but that's typically, we say, if you see us on a live stream, it means something terrible happened. It's that's the only thing that sort of gets us back in that mode, is when we feel like we can be useful. But part of, in recent years, the show doesn't have a set home. Even in New York, have done the show in various venues since pandemic. We'll do the Bell House, we'll do UCB, we'll do Caveat, we'll do whatever sort of fits our need in that moment. And also schedule wise, both this year and last year, we've sort of taken off. Like this year, I think we took off at least 6 months in the middle of the year. We did a handful of shows early in 2025, and then a bunch at the end of 2025, but none in the middle. And it sort of was like, I need that summer to not have to do it and to not have to spray up and not, and I think it's the same with Griffin sometimes. It's just sort of like, there's times where you just can't do the show. It's not easy for us to, this is like a silly thing to complain about, but it's like, it's not something that we naturally are like, oh, I can't wait to get into the character and do George Lucas talk show. We enjoy the shows while we're doing them, but the mental space to go back to doing something that you've done for hundreds and hundreds of hours.
And there's so many moving pieces.
Yeah. Yeah. Like honestly, getting I did these Life Day shows at UCB in December, and getting 2 suitcases from my apartment in Queens to UCB on 14th Street in Manhattan is truly just a nightmare. Like even just getting them out of my building, like packing up 2 suitcases and getting them out of my building. And there was a point when the show ended where I didn't realize there was a show after us. So I'm just slowly cleaning up, and then all of a sudden I see 30 people go into the green room. I'm like, what's happening? I'm like, well, there's a show at 11. I'm like, oh, it's 10:35. I gotta, I'm like in crisis panic mode, trying to like clean up everything, because we sort of do the show in a way that makes a mess on the stage. Now we don't spill anything or anything, but there's just like lights hanging everywhere and posters and
right. There's a lot to bring back together and put in those cases and get out of.
Yeah.
And you don't have, because you're not in residence like you were, you don't have just a cubby you can shove it in. You're not permanently there anymore.
No.
I mean, does it feel that, it almost seemed that you launched the acting class as a response to how many moving parts the talk show had. And like, this is just me. Yeah. This is me going out, being able to do this thing and be flexible.
Well, it started because we went to Edinburgh Festival Fringe in 2023, and we did this play that I wrote called The Baron and the Junk Dealer, which was basically like a Beckett play, but with Baron Papanoida, the George Lucas character from Star Wars and Watto, unnamed, so there's no copyright violation, but essentially it's like what if those 2 characters were stranded on a desolate planet, and they both were on the run. They were both running from something. We did the show for a month in Edinburgh, and at the end of the month, Griffin couldn't be there for the last 4 show dates, and I didn't want to give up the venue, so I said, well, I'll just do George Prov, and I didn't know what that would mean at that point because I'd never done solo improv before, but I'm like, I know I can be George on stage for an unlimited amount of time, and it'll be good. And so I did these shows, and they went really well. And then the next year, I did them at Sketchfest, and I did George Prov in LA at the Elysium Theater. And all of the shows went really well. And it's a different, doing one prov. Like, I don't think I'll ever do stand-up, but doing an improvised one-person show is it's a mix of crowd work and one-person scene work. So it's basically, it scratches the same itch that stand-up would, but it's not the same skill set in the terms of I don't have to like write a bunch of jokes. I can work off of what's happening in the moment and draw on what I'm good at. And
it also has a very clear premise for you to play with.
Well, yeah, George Prov does, because George Prov, the idea was that George Lucas used the technology that they developed at Industrial Light and Magic for the ABBA show in London, the ABBA Voyage, which is ABBA basically spent a few days in a motion capture studio, and they performed all their songs, and they were filmed from every angle so that they had all the information.
The avatars.
The avatars. So the premise of George Prov was that George Lucas spent a week on a motion capture stage doing all the improv moves, and then what you were watching was a George Lucas avatar, and that I would interact with the audience, and based on the audience prompts, would reformulate all of that improv into a show that only works for that audience. And I really liked doing that, and those shows had a really good energy, and it felt like it was worth doing, but I thought, I can't have another show where I have to put on the Howard the Duck jacket and buy. I did sort of feel like when Party City went out of business that it was a sign like, you have a finite number of white spray bottles. I don't know where. I have a bunch of white spray bottles. I'm not going to be in trouble for a while, but there will come a point where I'm like, where do I go to get white spray bottles? Because like it used
Is
to be
that the ticking clock for the talk show? Is that when the white spray bottles are gone?
Some of it definitely is that. I mean, I can always order them, but the problem is when you're in another town, you could go to a party city and get them. And now it's sort of like, is there a costume shop? Is there a place that sells this? I once did one of the times I did the show in London, literally all of London, it was like a January show. And I think all of London was out of white spray and they hadn't had it since Halloween. Like all the places that had it, like we haven't had it since Halloween. And I ended up using gray spray, which what I learned was white spray turns my brown hair gray. Gray spray turns my brown hair blue. So I did this whole show looking like blue.
Which would have been great for the Avatar version.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You
can't take it home, though. You can't go back to the regular show.
But anyway, so I wanted to keep doing one-person improv shows, and then I was like, but I don't want to keep doing another George Lucas show. And I also wanted to see if I could broaden the appeal of it beyond, because I think there are people, even though a lot of George Lucas Star Wars fans are not Star Wars people, there are a lot of people who like the show for what it is, and they're not even into Star Wars. And it has its own crazy reality that appeals to people who, in a way, it's not just like references and things like that. But I thought to myself, what is a way that I could keep doing one prov and not do this and still draw an audience? And it occurred to me that with Dead Eyes being the most popular thing that I've ever done, that is my project. I've done things that are more popular than Dead Eyes that aren't mine, where I'm just like an actor on them or something. But I thought, what if I do something that, if you liked Dead Eyes, you'll like this show, because it's sort of in some ways a spinoff of Dead Eyes. Connor Ratliff presents the acting class, because I'm being myself. I'm not making up fake credits. If I talk about something in the show, unless I'm just joking, which I'll always sort of reveal, I'm talking about my actual career. I'm talking about my actual approach to acting, but I'm being funny about it. And I'm playing at the idea of teaching an acting class, but I'm talking to audience members and I'm asking them real things and I'm doing real examples of things. And I thought, well, I can do that show. And it's, as you said, it's just me, and I don't need a set. I don't need costumes or props or set dressing or anything like that. I can do it anywhere, and that's part of the appeal of stand-up, is you just go into the room and you go on the stage and you're doing it. You don't have to set up a bunch of stuff. And the only thing I have is a video at the beginning that's like a theme song and closing music. But if someone's like, we don't have any way of showing that, then I did a show in Chicago recently where I didn't have a tech person. I just asked them to set the tech stuff at the side of the stage, and I did all my own tech. I did not know how to use the equipment. I literally was like at 2:30 in the afternoon looking online to see like, what do these buttons do, to try to figure out how to run a light board. But there's a real freedom to be having a show that's that lo-fi,
And also what I think is, when watching it, that you can feel that the sincerity and that it is a genuine acting class, and it is genuinely funny. And I think it's just a wonderful, enjoyable show to watch. Like if you don't even care about the aspect of the craft going into it, it's just a fun thing to watch and experience, and an interesting show.
I will say, I don't think it's a real acting class, but it is pretending to be a real acting class. And I think I'm a good enough actor that it seems convincingly like a real acting class.
I mean, the Ouroboros of all of this is, at a certain point, you've circled back to it being, instead of an acting class, is an example class. Like you're getting to watch you performing that craft of acting in that moment, and you can take away whatever you want from that experience.
Yes. And it's also a lot of times, especially depending on where I bring the show, when I'm in New York, I'll ask how many people are actors, how many people are in the audience are non-actors, and it'll sometimes be a 50-50 or 60-40. Sometimes it'll be mostly actors in the audience. I'll go to some other places and there'll be almost no people in the audience who consider themselves actors.
Which do you prefer an energy between the two of those?
It really depends on the person. But I can make it work either way. If I had to pick one or the other, in terms of the show being fun for me, I'd probably choose non-actors. In terms of if someone was like, for the future success of the show, it'd probably be smarter to target it at actors, because then everywhere you go, actors would be drawn to it, and it feels like it would become a strong niche, as opposed to a show that you constantly have to be convincing non-actors to come see because it's going to be funny.
Right. But I think that's the beauty of having the YouTube channel and sharing the shows, is that everyone can get a sense of what the show is now before they go. But I also know that then they go, the experience is going to be unique to the night they go. You're not spoiling anything by taking in what's on the YouTube channel of the shows you've done in the past.
I also, for what it's worth, and this may be a failed experiment ultimately, I also just started a podcast. Connor Ratliff Presents the Acting Class, the podcast, this week. 2 episodes are already out.
How did I not even know that you had launched this? What does that say about you getting the word out about it?
I mean, I haven't really promoted it, but I'm trying to find the even when I'm Googling it now, it literally isn't coming up.
Well, Google doesn't work either now, so
no, that's just a sign of how bad Google is. But I'm literally searching for a thing that I've seen cataloged on Google, and it's just not showing up. But I started a podcast. It's literally just me. If you can find it, it's on Spotify. It's on Apple. If you look up Connor Ratliff Presents the Acting Class, the podcast, it's a companion podcast to the show that's really just designed as another way of hopefully eventually driving people to the show. And it's also a way of answering questions. I'm asking people to email if they have questions about acting or about the show business or things like that I think would be interesting to talk about. You can email deadeyespodcast@gmail.com, and I will make future episodes of the podcast out of that.
Well, that was the fascinating thing about the Dead Eyes podcast and its evolution, was that, you started out with a great premise for a show, as far as getting that feedback as a young actor about your audition for Tom Hanks for Band of Brothers, and that being the comment, the title of the show, and the awkwardness and the sort of the emotional baggage that introduced into your life and career from that point forward, and looking for a resolution and an exploration of that and what that meant to you. And the show starting off with that premise, but you, through bringing in guests and talking about their experiences, expanding that out into a more universal, even beyond the acting profession, any feedback that you've gotten that has stuck with you and what that has meant and how that has shaped your life, I thought was a fascinating way for that thing to evolve. And it certainly sounds like that's what this podcast also has the potential to, you to sit with that and invite other people to participate.
Yeah. And the podcast, it literally, I mean, I'm just looking, 74 people have downloaded the first 2 episodes.
Well, it's going to be 75 soon. And I probably will listen to it.
We're heading towards triple digit listenership. I don't feel bad about it, because all I did was pay for the Podbean thing, which is like $12 a month or something. So that's the full budget of this podcast. There's no ads or anything. And it is just a way of trying to extend a dialogue to sort of engage with the audience in a way that my hope is that things I'm going to be doing with Connor Ratliff Presents the Acting Class going forward, that I can continue to grow it as a thing. Because I feel like as I start to have more and more guests on the show, that it's going to hopefully become a thing that actors and also non-actors can sort of, like the late night space, the broadcast late night space going away. alternative spaces are going to start popping up, and they already are, to sort of fill that gap. And sometimes that gap will be filled by things that are, a quarter of the size of what a late night talk show was. And sometimes it's 100 things that are 100th of the size of it. But there are always going to be people going around trying to do the thing that the late night talk shows used to do,
but all those things
actors
being universally discoverable now. I mean, anyone could stumble upon those. I mean, the one thing about those network shows is you may be a Johnny Carson, but it doesn't mean that Johnny Carson is known outside of the U.S.
Right. Yeah. And good luck finding my new podcast. I can't find it.
By the end of the show, when people watch this, there will be a link below that people can access the show.
I'm not worried about it, but I will set this as a challenge to your listeners. Just try finding the Connor Ratliff Presents the Acting Class podcast.
And send an email to, deadeyes@gmail.com?
deadeyes@gmail.com. I was going to set up
I found it. The subject line, I found it.
I found it. And a question, ideally, for me to answer on a future episode. I was going to set up a different email for it, but I've reached the point where I've set up too many Gmails and it wouldn't let me set up another one. So I've reached that point where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to use Dead Eyes Podcast because no one's writing to that email address anymore. I tried when that podcast was on as best I could. I may have missed a few people, but I tried to respond to everybody who ever emailed that. It took me about a year to get through the people who emailed it when we got to the Tom Hanks episode. The number of emails I started getting became too daunting to deal with, except as a slow bit by bit trickling away. But now that trickle of emails has fully stopped. So now people can email that. It's a memorable email address. So, yeah, I mean, it's very tricky doing anything and putting it out into the world at this point and asking people to invest their attention in it,
Yeah, well, I mean, that's where we started off talking about we have a finite amount of time, and how do you prioritize what you do with it? I have a question queued up. Do you want the question, and do you want time to think about it before we go into your first object, or do you want it to be sprung on you at a certain point?
I want the question. I don't want to. Just give me the question. Okay. I don't want anything but the question.
Okay, so is immediately after this question, we're going to go to your first object on your list. And we're going to preface everyone watching. Connor has objects in front of him. I'm going to ask him to rank them in the moment. We're going to build to your number one most cherished object in this moment. It could change at any time, but in this time, in this place, in this space, with you and I together, your number one. Before I get to the question, are you looking at the objects in front of you, and you know what your number one is going to be, no matter what?
I don't know. I don't know what my number one is going to be. It's not a hard lock.
Okay, so before we go into that, the question that I had was if you could sit down outside of a podcast, it could be on a podcast, it could be on a show, whatever, and just have a conversation with somebody about acting and about their process, their career, whatever, who would you want to sit down with?
Right. I mean, it's interesting. There are a lot of people... There are a lot of people that I think would be interesting to talk about with. There are a lot of actors that I think are great actors that I wouldn't want to talk about acting with.
Why?
Well, the more I learn about, I love Gene Hackman, but every time I learn anything about what he was like to work with, it always makes me feel glad that I just am a fan of watching him work.
I never had to share a set with him.
Yeah. It just doesn't sound like it was a lot of fun. And I don't think that Gene Hackman... I think if Gene Hackman was a guest on Connor Ratliff Presents the Acting Class, I don't think he'd enjoy it. And I don't think he would cooperate with it. And I think it would be a bad show. I think he'd be bad at it. I'm going to say there's a number of people that I could name, but the one I'm going to fall back to at the moment... I'm going to split my answer in two because there's an answer that I feel like probably won't happen, and there's one that I have some hope that it could happen. Is that a fair way to split the answer?
Absolutely.
And I think this could happen. It's not like I'm saying like Marlon Brando or something where can't happen unless I get a medium or something to do a seance.
We'll start with the possible one.
Not ruling that out. The possible one, the person I always think of when I think of, because so far when I've had guests on the show, I've only done 3 acting class shows so far where I've had guests, or I've had 3 guests so far, and there have all been friends of mine who are all fluent at improv comedy, which are my friend Griffin Newman, who plays Watto on George Lucas Talk Show, has done the show a few times. My friend Brandon Scott Jones from CBS's Ghosts and many other things, who's one of the world's great improvisers, and now Emmy winner Jeff Hiller, who got his nomination 1 week after being the guest on the acting class.
You did it. You made it happen.
I take only the most reasonable amount of credit because
but also you got him before he was unavailable.
I think I could still. The thing about Jeff Hiller is, since winning the Emmy, Jeff Hiller has dropped in at a Rat Scraps show. He's part of the ongoing rotating cast of Rat Scraps, the improv show that I do on the Lower East Side at Caveat on Sundays. And he's been part of that cast for years, since we started doing it in 2021. And not long after he won the Emmy, there was a night where he was not supposed to be doing Rat Scraps, but he saw that several people had dropped out for illness reasons, like people got colds, they had a scheduling thing came up, and he saw that there were only like 4 or 5 of us in the cast, and he emailed me. He was like, "Do you need me to I can drop in if you?" And we were like, "Yes, of course, we would all understand if you never spoke to us again."
And bring the Emmy.
He did not bring the Emmy. But he brought that Emmy energy. Anyway, he's great, and always a pleasure to just a lovely person. Even
but when you brought them in, it's been a known quantity.
Yes, and so my goal with the show is to get it to a point where I can get guests on the show who are not improvisers. Even to some extent, I think it'd be fun to do the show with people who aren't actors, but who are, I'd love to, if someone was a scientist and they had a big book coming out, that I could do a show about acting where I would tie it in somehow with science or something. You know what I mean? There are so many different ways to do the show, but I do want to get to a point where I'm doing it with actors who are not well experienced improvisers. And when I think of my go-to sign of when I will believe in my heart that the show has reached the level I want it to reach is Carrie Coon. Carrie Coon is the person that in my mind is a sign that I've done the show correctly. If I can ever get to the point where she will be a guest on the show, talk about acting, improvise with me, and I think she'd be a great guest because she's one of the great actors alive.
Now, do you feel that that's just a matter of asking? Like if you were to ask right now, I mean, it's not like you're unknown.
I have asked. I don't know. She followed me at one point on social media. And when you get a follower, then you can communicate. But she's never responded to the few times that I've messaged. So I don't know if that's just not how she engages with social media.
She may not be a DM person.
Might not be. It also might be, I have inquired about the show, and I'm just not sure that unless you get to know it in another way that it makes sense. What I'm asking a lot of times when I'm doing a show or a podcast or anything like that, I feel like I have these complicated, like you were describing the Ouroboros thing of, hey, I do this show where I pretend to be George Lucas and do this, or hey, I'm doing this podcast about how I got fired by Tom Hanks, or hey, I'm doing this show where it's an acting class, but I'm just pretending.
Or the server said, well, it looks like homework to show up for the show and understand.
I'm just not sure that it doesn't seem like the ravings of a lunatic, where I'm just like, hey, would you do this thing? It's really easy, but it's also this, and it's also, I may also just not be good at phrasing it. She's also just busy. She does so much. She never stops working. She's on multiple TV shows at any given time, and they're all great performances in prestige shows that are among the best things being made right now. So she's not on The Gilded Age. She's on White Lotus. She's not on White Lotus. She's on Fargo. She's on just the number of things over the years where she's been doing multiple things, and then she's also doing Ghostbusters movies, and it's just or she's doing a play, or she's doing it never stops. But I do think if I can establish the show as a place, I think it's like with Dead Eyes. A lot of the people who came to the show because they heard it was great or they became fans of it, and then I looped them into doing the show.
Right.
So my hope is that the word about the acting class shows will spread, and that eventually it'll just be a thing where it will be sort of like going on Inside the Actor Studio or something, where it's just a known thing, where it's like, oh yeah, I know a few people who've done it. I've heard it's fun. I'll do it. You know, there was a point with Inside the Actor Studio where they'd had so many guests on that it just became an inevitability that everyone else was going to go on it. You know,
or have you gone on it yet? In conversation.
Where it becomes a thing. And so I think, so Carrie Coon is the one that I believe in my heart it could happen someday. It might be years down the road. It could be months away. Who knows what could happen? There are a few people that I'm hoping are going to be guests very soon who may themselves help speed that process along in terms of the show building a reputation. The person that I can't imagine it happening, but I think it would be great, is Denzel Washington. Conversationally, seems to me like he's entering a phase as an actor and as an interviewee that seems very exciting to me. He's sort of entering a phase. I think some of his recent performances have had a wildness to them, an abandon that feels new. And it feels like he's always been, you know, one of the all-time greats. There are different phases in an actor's career. There's the phase where he's on St. Elsewhere, where he's just solid. He's solid. They never give his character a great storyline on St. Elsewhere. He never has one of the best or most memorable plot lines, but he's there through the whole run of that show, and he is solid. It's almost like
it's a steady job.
Yeah, but it's almost as if nobody knows what they have here on this show, because if they did, they would have given him better plot lines. And then he's off that show. He almost instantly is an Oscar winner, and then he's Denzel. Then he's like one word Denzel. Like, this guy was on many seasons of an ensemble network hospital show.
And you also have a team around you that are trying to keep you in that position and maybe helping to guide your career in safer directions that will maintain that level of being a star, particularly in the period when he became a star.
Yeah, and then you have that period where it's like Denzel becomes Denzel, where he's the, you know, Malcolm X, and he's in all these, you know, he's the star now. He is
when his name can greenlight movies, when he can get funding for movies, when he can make movies happen by attaching to movies.
Yeah, and then you get to a point where he becomes like not just an action star, but like the sort of like aging action star, where he's like a plausible, like the Equalizer sort of. He goes from like the sort of Man on Fire era to another era where it's like he's this plausible older action movie star who can, you know, kill everybody in the room, and you're not like, that doesn't seem like, you know, like you. I've never not believed that Denzel's Equalizer could kill everybody in the room. He always, and that's not just that's filmmaking, but that's also like having that quality as an actor. But in recent years, and I would say it's like from like since he did the Joel Coen Macbeth, which I thought was a great performance by him, but Gladiator 2 and Highest to Lowest in particular, two of his more recent films, he has a quality that I'm like, oh, I wonder what it would be like to be on stage with him. Because like one of the questions that I feel like would be the standard go-to question for any established actor who would come on Connor Ratliff Presents the Acting Class is, are there kinds of roles that no one ever lets you play, that no one believes you can play this? And to me, it feels like the perfect thing for like, let's try improvising a bunch of scenes and see if you can do this. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
not even doesn't believe you can play, just doesn't even enter their mind to offer you things to think that, that you wouldn't go to that place because that's not protecting the image of where he's at as an actor or the body of work he's done to that point. that
Yeah.
no one thinks about it because they haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. And I think that's immediately a fun thing to like, let's play around in that sandbox. I think there's no actor that I know of that I wouldn't be curious to see what their answer would be, even if they don't have an immediate answer, just to find out, like, well, what is that spark in them? Like, what kind of scene would we then improvise?
You want to do a
To me,
two-person Muppet show.
I mean,
You want to have a guest come on and go, come play. What do you want to do?
Here's what I think it is in the modern age somewhat, which is it's sort of like Hot Ones, but the chicken wings are replaced by improvising with me. That it's a place where you come on, and part of what draws people to Hot Ones is they're going to eat these wings. They're going to have this like this thing that sort of distracts them from the junket, the grind of like you're going to be asked, so what's it like to be in Gladiator 2? Like boring questions that you get asked a million times, that they're in this like even the smart questions, once you get asked them 100 times, are kind of like, oh, I've already answered this, so you can have the most insightful interview, but if it's interview number 30 that day, you're like, nah, and so those chicken wings, they really do change the game up in terms of conversationally. It's sort of like one of the things I discovered as a character hosted interview show is that you never get the standard guest interview because they're so distracted by the fact that Watto's on one side of them and George Lucas is over here. It's kind of like when people went on the Colbert Report back in the day. Those interviews were electric because they weren't normal interviews. They were a sparring match. He was going to like throw stuff at you as that character that is very different than even the most thoughtful interview that Stephen Colbert as himself would ever give, because you have this game you're playing with them. And so to me, the idea that I'm not just asking you, like if a journalist asks the question, what are some roles that no one ever thinks of you for, you never get to play? Then it's just an academic answer, and it's sort of like, oh gosh, I don't know, like
it's not. Now let's go into this scene doing the role you never thought you'd do.
Yeah, where it's like not only I know if you like, I don't know that Robert De Niro, he's sort of famously a kind of a tough interview, and I don't know whether he would have fun being on the acting class. That would be sort of a factor, that sort of thing. But I could imagine a world in which if you just asked him, what's a part that you never get considered for that you think you'd be good at, that he'd just go like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I just imagine him saying, I don't know a bunch. But if I'm like, well, let's play. Like, what's a part? Have you ever played a dentist? You ever played a dentist? No, I never played a dentist. Yeah, I did play in Marvin's Room, I played a dentist. Okay, well, if you ever play, and then we'll like figure out something he hasn't played before.
Right.
And like, if you ever played you played a fireman, like an arson investigator in Backdraft, but have you ever played like a fireman who knows he's really sexy? Yeah. No, I haven't. All right, well, let's do that. There's something about the idea that by being with a trained, experienced improviser, it does take away the fear that people have. Even if people are nervous about doing improv, when you're improvising with someone who knows what they're doing, they're protecting you. Like improvisers, Scott Adsit does a show called Adsit and You or whatever, that he just brings up audience members to do scenes with him. And when you're with someone who's done, 10,000 hours of improv and they're good at it, it doesn't matter whether the other person is experienced, because the improviser will protect them. So any actor I'd have on the show, even though they're like, oh, I'm not an improviser, I don't know how to do that, part of it will be like, it's like skydiving, where you have the person who is going to pull the cord for you and make sure that it's safe. It's not just you jumping out of a plane by yourself. You have the expert who's going to like, and the fact that I'm not just an improviser.
Neither of you want to die.
Yes. And so like, I don't want to do a bad scene, so I'm going to do everything I can to make it a good scene for you. And that's going to involve making you look good. And I can just imagine Denzel going to that place. I can imagine Carrie Coon going to that place. I think it becomes a fun thing. It's a fun game to play, especially if if you're a great actor. One of the things that you're having to do constantly is just like memorize reams of text. Just memorize so many lines of dialogue. Memorize. It's a huge part of it. there is something liberating about being able to do a scene where you don't have to learn it. You just have to pay attention to be in the moment and know who you are and what your character wants. And especially if you have the other improviser protecting you, you don't have to worry about, oh, I got to be funny. No, because also, I don't care whether improv scenes are funny. I never have. If they're interesting, that's more than enough for me. Most of the time, they'll be, even if it's not funny, if you try to do a dramatic scene in an improv space, you'll accidentally be funny. You'll just fail at drama, and that's really funny.
Right. And the audience doesn't want you to fail either. They want to have a good time, ultimately.
I can't, and I just know that if we can get this, and I'm not sure what form it'll take. It may be that I try it for a while and it doesn't work, but I do believe that this is a format of a show that I can do, that the more I do it, the more people are going to be drawn to it, both audience and also participant. Like, I think there's going to come a point where, there are things in our culture that it becomes known that that's a fun thing to go do, and they're rare, and I've been doing them for a long time. I can say with a reasonable amount of confidence that almost all of the people who've ever been a guest on the George Lucas Talk Show have had a fun time doing it. And that's the reason to do it. There's no other benefit. It's not a place you come, nobody's making money off of it. It's not a thing that any ticket we've ever sold for it, most of the time we're doing it for free or for fundraiser. Any ticket we've ever sold usually is just covering our plane fare, that to go to the place where we're doing it.
And you bought so many copies of Melody's book.
That's the other thing. When you're playing a character who, I've just given away so much stuff to the audience over the years, because part of the George Lucas character is that he's generous. And so unfortunately I've committed to that bit in a way that's occasionally been financially ruinous. There were times when we were doing the shows at UCB where we literally were getting none of the ticket was going to anyone on stage. It was just going to keep the lights on at the theater. And I would spend $200 on little knickknacks to give away to the audience. I'd be like, I lost $200 on this show, and it sold out. It was like a sold out show that I lost $200 on.
But you're also a collector of things. So is some of that a way to offset the idea of, I want to buy things and these fun little things, but I put it off as I have the high of buying them, but I'm going to give them away?
That's a very, very perceptive observation. It is 100% true that the itch that I will get to buy a George Lucas related thing is offset by the fact that it's like, and I'll give it away at the show. So it's not a thing that just goes on the pile of stuff that I have to find a place for. It's not, I get the thrill of having it for a little while and then the thrill of giving it away, so particularly as the new Star Wars movies have been coming out, I learned over the course of having something for a month, whether it's something that I want to keep on George's desk, or I'm going to keep it in my apartment, or I just want to give it away. And it's like, I used to have that. I can get it again if I need to, but I also will never need to get it again,
The only time I've seen you have a what seemed like a deeply hurt emotional reaction to what happened with an object that you gifted or gave to someone was on the most recent talk show.
Clark Gregg.
With Clark Gregg, and you gave a mug that Patrick, in his Patrick way, looking for a way to add another layer to it.
Was it Patrick's idea to give it away to the audience?
It was absolutely Patrick's idea of hey, why don't you give away that mug? That mug that Clark had beside him that was going to take home, and was very happy in the moment with that gift that you had given him.
That's the order in which it happened, and now I'm genuinely angry.
I'm watching it because I know Patrick, and I know his instincts to want to involve the audience and keep a thing going in that moment. But I could see, so at that part, it was just me charting your reaction to it as it.
And we had so much stuff that we could give away to that audience member, and
you navigating so many times of Clark, you can keep it. You don't have to do. In fact, here's the emotional thing. Here's the journey that got that mug to you. Maybe don't give it away.
Yeah, I made he was on an episode of Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. I made a mug that cost me $50, including shipping, so I could give him a mug that had his character. Yeah. And the fact that he held it for 20 minutes and then gave it to an audience member, I would have I don't know. I still would have made it. I don't regret having made the mug and given it to him, but I would have. Part of the reason for doing that is the idea that Clark Gregg would take home this stupid mug and it would go in his kitchen, and then 5 years from now he'd be like drinking a cup of coffee, and I'd be like, "Why do I have this young Indiana Jones?" But it's probably it probably speaks to a healthy approach to life that Clark Gregg did not feel the need to have a mug with his face on it. It's probably speaks well of him.
Yeah, I could see that twinkle in Patrick's eye as well, because Patrick clocked what you were trying to do to get Clark to retain the mug, and Patrick was providing you no assistance when it came to navigating that.
Yeah, and I'm genuinely angry now because I don't think him giving away the mug was funny enough to justify that Clark Gregg now doesn't have that mug.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's honestly, like, I think my pain about it was funnier than the bit itself.
And I don't know how much of it also is knowing the situation and clocking to it at the top of it in watching this, obviously back, nearly a month later than it happening but being able to chart that emotional journey in the moment in the audience. I'm not sure anyone was clocking it in quite the same way that now I can look at it and go, and also as someone who can appreciate what it is to do a gesture like that.
Yeah.
And the novelty. But I also see Patrick's side of like, hey, this is the show. This is the thing. The audience is going to appreciate having this thing.
It's a C joke. It's no more than a C+ joke.
It was a weird thing to call back for when, as you said, you had dozens of things you could give away. And the mug was not like it was in Clark's hands, that he had set it aside as a thing I'm going to walk off stage with when we're done.
Yeah. It was a bad thing to do to me. I'm happy now.
And I know Patrick's watching this right now. So Patrick is wondering, Ken, why are you throwing me under the bus?
You think Patrick watched me talk for an hour on this?
Patrick is absolutely watching every moment of this right now. In fact, Patrick has already emailed the Dead Eyes podcast at gmail.com to send in a question about this moment.
No way.
He has Google alerts. He absolutely, he is going to check this out.
Well, Patrick, I want you to know.
He hashtags himself on shows. This is going to happen. He is going to watch this.
Because the thing is, I'm not going to make a second mug of that and try to get it to Clark Gregg. So it was a once in a lifetime opportunity. And now it's just an audience member. I hope that audience member loves having that mug.
I hope it made it home safely.
Yeah, there's a part of me that imagines that mug not being in a good home, and it's heartbreaking to me.
Or it could be in a home in a cherished place of honor of a wonderful evening that they spent and a gift that they got that they know that you made with love in your heart.
I hope so.
And it's now an heirloom for someone to go through during an estate sale and wonder what the deal was with this.
Yeah. I hope so. I hope you're right.
You made moments. Speaking of moments, we're going to dig into your list because we're in the latter part of the show. So we're going to go through your list.
And these are not, I couldn't have possibly thought of the 6 most precious objects to me.
It's in the moment when you're looking around at the things and you're going, this means a lot to me. It doesn't have to be the most. It is just things that are that genuinely you love and have a special place. And we're going to make you rank them right now just to build to a 1 because that's the artifice of it. But it's just things that you're looking at like, hey, I'm not going to bring this on stage for the chance that Patrick might regift it because this actually means something. I'm not going to give this away. So your first object then. So this is one that you obviously retained it. You're not going to give it away.
Yeah. And the thing is, I have so many little things in different places. Some of them are not accessible, so it wouldn't even occur to me to choose them. So these were things that I could get to.
Okay.
You know? And this one is something that I have at my desk that I've had for decades now, I believe. I think you could track back probably to the month I got it, which is, it is a Gary Shandling toy. You see that?
I can. Holding popcorn?
No, he's holding scripts, like script pages.
Oh, it was in, no, not in profile. Okay.
Yeah. So let me see if I can get him in focus. Well, he's tiny.
So that's about what, 2 inches, a little over 2 inches total?
Less, no, it's about an inch.
Oh, that is...
It's small. And this I got at the Sunshine Cinema when the Jerry Seinfeld documentary Comedian was playing there. And they made these little toys, these little plastic figurines of various comedians who were in that documentary. And it was a thing where you were in the movie, and when you went in, there was not the machine. And when you came out of the movie, there was this big machine that you could, for 75 cents, you could buy one of these toys. So all these adults coming out of the movie theater suddenly turn into kids. They're just like, oh my God, I got to get one. They're all lined up. Do you have quarters? Do you have quarters? You're like, you had to have quarters. Like now, I think you couldn't do this now because not enough people would have quarters on. None of them, you know what I mean? It would be like,
right.
Where do we go to get coins? You know? And so I was standing in line in front of someone who kept saying, oh, I hope I get Gary Shandling. I hope I get Gary Shandling. And this, of course, is when Gary Shandling was still alive. And I was in my mind thinking, well, I want Gary Shandling. Of all the comedians who were in that movie, that's someone that I would want. He's, the Larry Sanders Show is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. And I just really, really wanted it. And I get up to the thing, and I had never used a coin machine where it's 3 quarters, but there were only 2 slots. I didn't realize you put the 2 quarters in one slot and 1 quarter in the other slot, and you turn it. So I kept trying, thinking, I thought it was you put 2 and then you turn it, and then you put another one and you turn it. So I kept trying, it wasn't working. So I panicked, and I said, I can't. I said, you go ahead of me. And so the guy behind me, who was like, I want Gary Shandling, he was very public about that he wanted Gary Shandling. He's like, oh, I want Gary Shandling. I want Gary Shandling. I'm like, God, I want him too, but you're so loud about it. And he puts 2 quarters in one slot, 1 quarter in the other. He turns it. And he's like, I hope I get Gary Shandling. I hope I get Gary Shandling. And the thing drops down, and he pulls the thing out, and he opens it up, and he goes, Colin Quinn. And the whole line went, oh! No disrespect to Colin Quinn, but it was just, he'd been so public about wanting Gary Shandling, and the whole line was just like, oh, yeah. And so he goes over to kind of commiserate, and I quietly put in my coins, and I turn it, and it comes out, and I see that I got Gary Shandling. I immediately see that I got Gary Shandling, and the guy turns back to me, because I've effectively taken his place. I got the thing that should have been for him. And he turns to me, he goes, who did you get? I went, I got Gary Shandling. And he goes, would you trade with me? And it was one of the most selfish moments of my whole life. I remember thinking, if I can just get a few blocks away from this moment, I'll never see this person again. And I'll have this Gary Shandling toy. And I remember he goes, would you trade with me? And I knew by rights, I took his slot. We switched around. But I remember looking at him and I went, I can't. Because part of me was like, I hope this guy doesn't go like, he got the one, we switched places, and I could see. And so I just got out of there as quickly as I could. I scurried away.
I'll remember you.
And I knew it was wrong. But I also, part of me was like, maybe we were meant to switch places. Like, who knows? Like, maybe if you think about it, it felt like a very Gary Shandling kind of moment, because it felt like the type of thing that you could imagine Larry Sanders, the character, navigating, which is like, oh, I wasn't supposed to, oh. no, I can't. Like, I could just imagine Larry Sanders as a character being like, oh, I can't figure this out. And then someone else doing it and then being like, oh, Larry, did you get the thing that was for me? And be like, yeah. And then being like, I'm going to keep it. You know, just like. So anyway, I look at it every day. It's on my desk. It has not gone to waste. I have not wasted the. It's in a place where I see it every day. If I'm in my apartment, I see it, and it means so much to me. And it's ranked 6th on my list.
Now, do you think the other guy is somewhere staring at his Colin Quinn with rage to fuel his rage every day?
I mean, here's the thing: to feel something, even after all that time, is its own gift. You know, to feel a strong emotion, to feel strongly about something, like to think I could have had Gary. I hope that guy held on to his Colin Quinn. Part of me likes to imagine that if he'd gotten Gary Shandling, it would have been lost by now and he wouldn't have taken care of it. And that I essentially rescued it from a terrible fate. You know? Who knows?
I hope, you know what? I hope in that moment he realized that maybe I need to work other paths to try and manifest things within my life.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to set my goals bigger than my one dream of getting this Gary Shandling out of this dispenser. You changed a life. You changed a life, hopefully for the better.
Hopefully. I hope I did. I really hope I did.
Regardless, you still have a Gary Shandling on your desk.
I do. I absolutely do.
Now I'm curious who else was in those things. I want to track down the entire run of those.
I've never seen any of them for sale on eBay. Let me look up comedian Seinfeld figurine or toy and see if anything comes up. No, nothing from. Well, they bring up other like Seinfeld related toys. Yeah, I've never seen any of those toys available.
Does Gary Shandling figurine come up with anything?
Gary Shandling Gary Shandling toy. I don't think so. So it is like one of those things that if I hadn't gotten it that day, I don't know that it ever would have come up. No, you can get a 35 millimeter slide transparency of Gary Shandling holding a slinky from the 90s. It's the closest thing to it.
You send me that link?
No, it's too late. I'm already bidding on it. I'm not going to let anybody. I'm looking to see if because that was 2002. I had just come to New York. I was new to town when that happened. And when I look at the people who were in that doc, because that's how, for people who are more fastidious about searching for things, Jim Norton, George Wallace, Robert Klein, Ray Romano, Chris Rock, Kevin Nealon, Jay Leno, Bill Cosby, George Shapiro. I mean, there's a lot of people.
And you came to New York. This was after your London experience then. Mm-hmm. So this is
years after London. I'd been in Oregon for a couple of years after that.
So this was sort of your journey back into.
Yeah.
So really that Gary Shandling means a lot on a lot of levels.
I hadn't clocked that it was that early in my being in New York. It was probably one of the first times I was at the Sunshine Theater, which is no longer there. It's funny to think about something like that because you're like, Gary Shandling's no longer with us. That theater's no longer with us. Like those toys are out there floating around somewhere. They're there. There was a whole machine. There's a whole line of people who bought these things. They were comedy nerds. Anyone going to see that documentary in a theater was a comedy nerd, probably. And so.
And it was a golden age of promotional items. So I'm sure there was probably a substantial order for those things.
Who held on to it, you know?
Or no one wants to part with it, and that's why it's not on eBay.
It really could be that.
People understand its importance. So that was your number 6. So that's not even your number 1. So what would be what's the next item on your list?
Next item. I'm going to bring... This is a slight cheat, but it's a bundle.
I'll accept it.
It's a bundle.
We're making these rules up as we go.
The movie Copperhead, which is a movie that it's one of the worst, probably the worst movie I've ever seen. It was this is the cassette soundtrack to Copperhead, the VHS of the movie Copperhead, and a special edition Blu-ray in a slipcase of Copperhead. And this is a horror movie that my mom was in that came out in 1983. And it was shot on video. The movie that was shot on video. It looks terrible. And this weird little boutique label, TerrorVision, great label, puts out lots of weird stuff. And I also have a vinyl soundtrack to this. I mean, I can't say with more emphasis how bad Copperhead is as a movie. My mom hates this movie, but I love that we live in a, you know, as physical media is dying, it's also thriving depending on what your perspective is. It's dying in the sense of Best Buy DVD section, Blu-ray section existence, but the boutique labels like Vinegar Syndrome and TerrorVision and
Kino Lorber.
And Kino Lorber is I just ordered several more Kino Lorber things I just got in the mail. They don't make my 6 objects, but like they're smaller runs, more limited edition, but the quality of the packaging and the supplemental aspects of it.
Because you have to care enough to want to put these things out, particularly as you said, the media landscape is now. So if any company is going to find a way to put these out, they're going to have a care attached to it.
All I really want to do at this point is make some connections with, like, I love there's I can never say the name of it. There's the sister label of Vinegar Syndrome that is, cinematography, I guess, when it's spelled like Graphe, so I think it should be cinematograph. Cinematograph. I don't know how to pronounce it, but they're the ones that come in sort of like cinematograph. Yeah, I don't know, but they sort of put out, and I don't mean this as like an insult. They sort of put out stuff that you feel like either couldn't be Criterion, but like sort of deserves to be. It's almost like a underdog Criterion collection in a way, like Criterion for underdog films.
Right.
And they recently just put out At Close Range, the Sean Penn, Christopher Walken movie, but they come in like a hardcover book, like slipcase with like one of those like ribbons that you need to pull to get it out of the slipcase.
It's like it's a deluxe collector's edition.
It's real, and the supplements are. They did like Thieves Like Us is a good example. The Robert Altman movie with Shelley Duvall and Keith Carradine. Or they just put out A New Leaf, the Elaine May movie. These are movies that genuinely could be on Criterion, but for whatever reason, they're not. And they're actually nicer packages, like physically.
Can we get them to do Popeye? I would love Popeye, given that sort of treatment.
They just did Swimming to Cambodia, the Spalding Gray movie. Like, the guy who curates this, I sort of bother him every now and then because every time they put out a new thing, I'm sort of like, I like message him and I'll be like, hey, like, I want to get involved in
the curation process.
Not in the curation, but like in being on a commentary or like contributing an essay or something, you know, like the first one they did when I became aware of it is a great movie called Red Rock West. It's one of the, have you ever seen that Nicolas Cage movie, Red Rock West?
No.
It is so good. It is a movie that was literally not available, I think, on DVD. And that was one of the first ones they came out with. And it's Nicolas Cage.
What year is this?
The year it came out was 93, 10 years after Copperhead. But it's Dennis Hopper.
Which is how you judge time.
Yes. Nicolas Cage, Dennis Hopper, J.T. Walsh. It's such a good movie. It's directed by John Dahl, who did The Last Seduction. Really good movie. But that was the first one where I was like, oh shit, this is like really, really good. And maybe that's impossible to make this, but the thing that I had pitched them was, I was like, you should put out David Lynch and Mark Frost's TV show, their sitcom, on the air. it would be a perfect cinematograph.
Cinematography?
I wish I knew how to say it because it looks so classy when you look at it. It even has the little slash over the first E. Cinematograph. Cinematograph. I don't know. Anyway, I love that label.
That's going to be the entirety of your commentary. Is just
how much I love the label. No, I just like they just put out such good stuff. Anyway, TerrorVision also puts out good stuff. It's not all to my taste because they put out a lot of weird horror and stuff like that. But I was so happy that they put out Copperhead. There was a point where
have you done a screening of it? Have you ever like I'm going to rent out a theater and do a screening of it?
I don't want to watch it. It's bad.
How did your mother get involved with it?
He came to Mid-Missouri, the guy who was making the movie. He had done a previous movie called Motorhome from Hell, and he basically just cast it out of the local community theater group. So my mom got cast out of that, and then they filmed it. She hates snakes. It's a horror movie about snakes, and it's not a good script. It's not shot well. It doesn't look good. But I love, and like it has the fact that I own the soundtrack on vinyl and cassettes, but like the music is not good. It's just not good.
So is it all just private personal labels that these things were released?
Well, Copperhead originally was made it was a straight to video movie on one label. And I do have earlier versions of it. I have the old original VHS. Let me look and see on eBay what comes up for Copperhead. I'll look up Copperhead movie, see what comes up. There's another movie called Copperhead that's a Civil War drama. That's not it. It was made by a guy named Leland Payton, who sounds like it's a very Twin Peaks name because you have Leland Palmer and Harley Payton who works on Twin Peaks.
Did he sell insurance? What was his day job?
I don't know, but he made these. It was basically during an era where he made these movies because we used to get, for my mom for Christmas, we would get her copies of the movie and she would always throw them away. And they would cost like $100 because they were priced for rental. They were not priced as retail releases. They were priced for video rental stores.
And there's a finite availability of those as they're tossed out, and that pool is reduced every holiday.
Let me tell you this, though. If you want to get Copperhead on VHS right now and you have $100 or $200 to spare, you're going to be fine. There are 7 results. One of them's not the real thing. So there's 6 results. I'm telling you, but if you want the good version, let me look and see. TerrorVision, there's plenty on eBay of the TerrorVision re-release, that is the version to get. Let me look and see if it's still available new from unfortunately, it was during this came out at a time where I did not have a lot of free time they have a lot of special features, and they had contacted me about getting an interview for my mom for it. I just didn't have time. I was working on Dead Eyes and I just didn't have time to record another thing. And I really should have just that day recorded a commentary with my mom.
I'm saying in all sincerity, you still should do that commentary.
Well, the Blu-ray is limited to 2,000 units, but it's still available. You can still order it new from the thing.
And if there's anything that the I Am George Lucas documentary has shown, you can put dozens of commentaries out online. They don't have to be on the physical object. I
do want to say I recommend buying any cinematography Blu-ray before you get Copperhead because they actually pick really good watchable movies. And as we said at the beginning, we all have a limited amount of hours left in our lives. My mom doesn't want to talk about Copperhead. I don't want to watch it again. I love owning these objects.
Now, is that the only project she was ever involved in? And did she do any other film work? Anything?
She was in a movie I made once that she was good in, but I don't really talk about that movie as much. That was an early movie I did that also got like a limited DVD release. But she did a lot of community theater plays. Like my dad was the one who started out trying to be a professional actor, did improv and stuff in Chicago. But growing up, my dad was a weatherman and hosted a local kids show. And most of the acting or theater I was around was because I would go with my mom to her plays and rehearsals and things like that and see her in plays. And then I started doing them.
And did she stop doing that at a certain point? Did she?
At a certain point, yeah. She hasn't done it for a while. At a certain point, the memorization became a thing where it was not fun for her to have to learn lines, you know?
Could you do an acting class with her at some point?
Well, sure, I could. I don't know whether she'd want to at this point, but I could. Yeah, maybe I'll do one in Miami with my parents.
I'm putting that out there as that would be. I would love to see you do an acting class with her at some point. Both your parents.
Yeah, I mean, I think it might be an exhausting experience to them. I think they would probably rather just attend one. If I was coming to Miami, I think they would be stressed out at the thought of being on stage. I think they would probably prefer just for me to do a show that they could come see.
So what you're saying is have them on the podcast instead.
Yeah, I can have them on the podcast. That's legit.
That's lower stress.
Much lower stress and probably the better play, I think, in the long run. Should we get another object out?
I think we need to get another object out. So we're at the halfway point, just about. So this is your fourth. This is your fourth on your list, right?
This is number 4. Yes, so I have 4 objects left. Okay, the next one, and I'll do this in. I have a wall of. If I was going to really cheat with the bundling, and I won't do this, I have a wall of Funko Pops that are Tom Hanks related. And I started getting those when I was making the Dead Eyes podcast. I had a notion that I was going to tour doing Dead Eyes Live when I was still doing that podcast. And part of my idea was I noticed that there were all these like multiples of things. Like Castaway had like 2 different Chuck Noland Funko Pops, and Forrest Gump has like 5, and Woody from Toy Story has like 20. You know, there's just so many of them. So I thought I'm going to get all of the Tom Hanks Funko Pops, and when I tour with the live show, they'll be my set dressing. I'm kind of glad that never happened because it would have been a nightmare. I would have needed a whole special suitcase with protectors. Like it would have been so fucking hard to tote these around. But it is insane. It's just the wall of my apartment is just a mountain of Tom Hanks. I have David Pumpkins. I have the Zoltar machine. I have the Walt Disney one with the castle.
Are any missing?
I don't think I'm missing any of them.
Have they ever released just a straight Tom Hanks?
No. I have the Tom Hanks Simpsons action figure at the top of them, which is not Funko. I even got to the point where I have the Conan O'Brien as Woody from Toy Story Funko Pop, because Conan O'Brien was the main writer on a lot of the classic Tom Hanks hosting early Saturday Night Live, like Mr. Short-Term Memory or The Two Guys, him and John Lovitz. Those were Conan sketches. And of course, Tom Hanks famously was the one who said, "I'm with Coco" during the Team Coco days.
Branded.
Anyway.
Gave him that branding.
Among these Funko Pops, and I hear the Funko Pop is maybe on their way out. That's the buzz I keep hearing, is that we may be reaching the end of Funko Pop. They're in peril.
I hope they don't take a Mondo with them.
It could be one of those things like Hostess, where like Twinkies went away, but immediately someone else like bought them up or whatever.
So the Funko Pops will be 20% smaller.
Yes, and won't quite be the same. Won't quite be the same. But one of the points of pride with my podcast is that, and I don't think this is true of most podcasts, particularly not most podcasts that have multiple guests in their first episode, that the guests in my first episode that you heard other than me were Darcy Carden, Zach Woods, and John Hamm. And all 3 of them have Funko Pops. So you can literally make a Funko Pop lineup. And so they are there with my Tom Hankses. And just under the wire, and just by a technicality, in a way, as Funko is maybe on death's door, I finally got a Funko Pop that came out, or I got cast in a character that had a Funko Pop, more accurately, chronologically, which is in the HBO Max original animated series Jellystone. I am the voice of Thundar the Barbarian, who has a Funko Pop.
So you were able to complete.
Yes. So I put him with my guests in this display. I put him there, and it's a meaningful, on a personal level to me, as an object that it's also a very strong version of me. Thunder the Barbarian, much stronger physically, much more impressive physically than I am. And the original voice of Thunder the Barbarian was the actor Robert Ridgely, who's a big voice actor in the movie Boogie Nights. Like he passed away before the movie came out, but he's like a great actor, legendary actor, and it's the first time I've ever voiced like a legacy character, like a character that is had like a history to it, you know.
How does that feel, sort of, to get into that area of the career? Are you seeing more opportunities like that present themselves?
Yeah, a little bit.
Because you also have an appreciation as someone who loves animation, and clearly for, you know, the actors who don't get recognized for having that sort of vocal legacy for these performances and should be celebrated. That you understand what it means to step into these characters and what they mean within pop culture and to yourself.
Yeah. And Thunder wasn't even a show that I ever watched. I didn't know it. I was not familiar with it. But then when I started like digging into it, I was like, oh my God, Robert Ridgely, I know who that is. And to be part of a, you know, even in a small way, even in like, it's a, you know, Jellystone is obviously like a weird comedy version of those characters. But it was really fun just knowing that you're on that timeline in a weird way, you know?
Yeah, you're now part of that. Who has played this character?
Yes. Yeah, and I would love to, you know, I've had opportunities, but nothing that I've been able to carry across the finish line except for that. Yeah. So that is now we're down to number 3.
Number three. So we have 3, 2, and 1.
Yeah.
Are you getting a strong sense of what your number 1's going to be?
I am. I think I am. I think I know what I'm going to be. It's going to be a little bit past the season for it, but I think I know what my number 1's going to be.
Okay.
And I'm going to go a little bit emotional over sentimental, because there's sentiment in all of these things. I'll tell you a thing that almost made it, but I'm not going to, in order to keep with the spirit of the thing, I won't show you the thing that I just knocked out of the running.
Right.
Is that fair? Or should I show it?
No, you should show it, because you have honorable mentions.
Yeah. Honorable mention. Okay. I have a lot of these old glasses, and this is the A&W Root Beer Bear. And I have a pitcher that also has the A&W Root Beer Bear on it. And I really like this character. I met him when I was a baby. When I was like a toddler. They had someone in the suit at the local A&W, and we were driving down the road, and I remember insisting, like, pull over. I gotta go meet him. And my parents pulled over, and there's like pictures of me with the A&W Root Beer Bear. And I remember being like, that's the bear. That's the A&W Root Beer Bear. I think maybe one of the more underutilized promotional characters. He is as well designed as any cartoon character. You know what I mean? Like, that is a well drawn.
No, I mean, he could have stepped out of any Hanna-Barbera production.
I think he's even better than that. I think he's got somebody should do something with him.
He's got that Hanna-Barbera facial design, that modularity, but the body is more Warner's, it feels like.
I would actually say like the draftsmanship is actually stronger than most Hanna-Barbera stuff in terms of like that line work is just really, really good. And I think he could be Disney, Warner Brothers. There's no studio that you couldn't.
How much merch do they do for it? Do they do figurines?
Yeah, they did a bunch of stuff. He was, you know, and now I feel like A&W, you still have it as a brand just for the soft drinks. But A&W to me feels like a place where I associate it with like driving through like what look like deserted southwestern towns when you're on the highway. And you'll drive through and there'll be a local A&W and be like, oh my God, it's just like the franchise that time forgot.
It's like some people would think of like Sonic in different parts of the country, and
I know there are places, I think, where I've seen an A&W where it feels like it's like a new, like rebranding, like a new version of A&W. I'm like, oh, it doesn't have that old feel. But that got knocked away by this object that I'm very proud to have made happen, which is the record, the vinyl single for the song Dead Eyes by Amy Mann. This is the thing that I really, really put a lot of work into, because the record itself looks like a dead eye. It looks like an eyeball. And both getting the song made and then getting Amy and her record label to like put it out as a record store day thing that I could like wait in line. And then like I designed the liner notes for it are a very well edited by me interview that I conducted over text message, but because of like the font of it and the way that it's like, you would never guess these are text messages. It looks like something in a McSweeney's issue. You know what I mean? It's like a proper interview. And I feel like it's a thing that I never have heard not a single person has ever been like, oh man, that record was so cool. And I read the little interview, and like, it does feel like at a certain point, what I realized was that I knew from the beginning I was making this for me. Like, I wanted this record to exist for me. The only online comment I've ever seen about the record is from people being like, it's just one song, and why isn't it out on streaming? And I've only ever seen complaints of people who were like, it's too expensive, or, yeah, maybe if it was...
That doesn't sound like the internet to only be complaints. That's not the internet that I know.
And it doesn't, like, I would have loved it if people had gotten really excited about it, because I also put the demo, which had never been heard anywhere. Amy's demo is the B-side. And I got it's such a good object. And I'm so happy that I have it.
But how does that feel as a journey because obviously the Dead Eyes is instigated by trauma, emotional trauma, that had, deep-seated and lodged within you for decades, at that point that you decide to start this and dredge it up, make it public on a much wider scale than previously there, and sort of live in it for a bit and explore it. That not only through the conversations that you had with other people and that you started because of this thing, but that this actually birthed that song into the world and was a creative exercise.
Yeah. And it's a song, it's a song that, like, she's writing from my point of view. The song is sung from my point of view, which is I didn't even realize that didn't even hit me for a while after she wrote the song. It's like, oh, she's writing in character as me, which is a very surreal thing to think about. But yeah, just the idea that at the time that all that happened and me getting fired from Band of Brothers, I wouldn't have ever been able to envision making something out of it that would have resulted in a record, which the podcast is its own thing, but it exists out in the podcast ether. It's this thing. You can't touch it. You can't see it. You can just hear it. And, or maybe read the transcripts of the episodes. But I was determined to have this exist just so that there'd be something in the world. And I do have a number of things. Obviously, I have all these Funko Pops, but like something that like this couldn't exist without the podcast. So it only exists because of me.
And also now is a part of Amy's catalog.
Yes. And then it's
you because it's written from your perspective. Well, aren't you both doing the Joko cruise? Aren't you?
We did the Joko cruise.
Was she on it when you did it?
She was on that one. Yeah. And she was, and did like an episode of Dead Eyes Live on the show and did, it was, but I haven't, she's on the Joko cruise every time. I haven't been invited back to the Joko cruise because they got to mix it up every year.
That's what they tell people. That's what they tell us.
and it maybe never will cycle back around to me doing it. Although I'd love to do the acting class on a boat. I would do if they put me on the Joko cruise, I would do the acting class every day on the boat. That for the same price as one George Lucas talk show.
Well, Joko Cruise 2027 of all the years that we
maybe 2030.
You're not getting any younger. You're saying every day.
Yeah. So now we're down to the top two, right?
Top two. And and your number one still your number one, right? So nothing's in play.
Yeah. This is a thing I acquired recently. It's a recent acquisition. And it ties into a thing that's coming out soon. I got this little Magica Dispel figurine. And I did this because my friend James III and I have been writing these Stitch comics for Disney.
Oh, you know what?
Cameo by Stitch right here. Stitch. There it is. There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so...
Listen, I very rarely pick up physical copies. It has to be very special to pick up physical comics.
Thank you for picking that up.
So this was something absolutely...
Number one issue. And so James and I have been writing those. The fourth issue of that just came out. And in February, we're coming out with an issue of DuckTales, a DuckTales Valentine's special, a one-shot issue, which James and I wrote together. And it features Magica Dispel. And so I'm very happy with how it's turning out. I just saw the art the other day. And I got this on eBay. There's not a lot of Magica Dispel stuff. There's one thing that I have my eye on that's very expensive that I don't think I can justify getting unless something huge happens. There's one that's sort of built on the old Karl Barks. It's more like a little statue than this is a plastic action figure. But
I think that was a European release, wasn't it? The one you're describing?
Like a dark horse. Oh, was it? These things
so it was the wooden with the
yeah. They're really nice, but they're really expensive. But anyway, I just figured, having written this DuckTales story with Scrooge and Magica Dispel, that I tend to, I'm not actually superstitious, but I do have that like collector bug, which is like, oh, I should get that because I just wrote my first Disney Duck comic and she's the main villain in it. And I have I'll do another cameo. I have an old Scrooge McDuck figurine from I'm not sure what year this is even from. This is from 1988, maybe?
Yeah, that was the initial applause line, right? For when DuckTales?
This is Bully. No, this is not DuckTales. It says Bully, made in West Germany.
Oh, so that is for the European releases.
Yeah.
Which is odd that they would go with the DuckTales coloration on it, since they're usually purists about going with the old school black and red.
Yeah. But I've had this Scrooge for a long time. You know, as you cycle through stuff and you get rid of certain things and then you hold on to certain things, that's one that I've always kept. And now I'm just going to start showing you things. I'm looking at so many things in your background that are so impressive. And so this isn't on my list of 6, but it is like one of the most... do you have this? Do you have this old Yoda?
That I had it as a child. I have not re-gotten it since then. The barely a hand puppet.
But it does 2 moves, which is it puts his head down like that, and then you can move he can do chest compressions on himself, like clear, and then he can. But I'm so impressed with the condition this one is in, that it is just looks like it's brand new out of the box.
Oh yeah, because you don't have any cracking or fading or anything like that. The colors are strong. The hair's still there.
The hair is still there. I took such good care of this, and yet I know I acted with it a lot because you can do a lot just with these little movements, you know? And I love how simple that is. Anyway, I'm stalling to get you to my number one.
No, you don't did this. Listen, you I know you have. We've seen occasional glimpses. I've seen your shelves. I know the stuff that we share on our shelves, like the Fantagraphics Peanuts collections and Karl Barks library, and there's a lot of stuff we share. Listen, I can start grabbing things too.
Yeah, a lot of overlap.
Here, I'll grab this. Speaking of the George Lucas Karl Barks connection.
Yep. I can't reach it, but I can see it.
Let's see. That was the one I coveted as a kid, and my parents refused to buy me because it was too expensive from Books A Million.
It was very expensive
in Potomac Mills,
and that one has like really crazy coloring. Like some of that's like wild airbrushing. Like it's not the best coloring.
It's like they were trying for a prestige look that makes absolutely no sense. What's like a watercolor? It's like almost a watercolor kind of
literal airbrushing in some where it has like the kind that you get on an airbrush like car or a t-shirt or something.
Or a conversion van
but it's such a good book. Oh yes.
Yeah, like that background, there's that Scrooge is a good example of that airbrushing you're talking about.
Yeah. And if you have in that one, the land beneath the ground, that's the one that has the truly wild coloring with those roundy guys that cause earthquakes.
The terra firmis.
Terra firmis, yes. Look at the coloring in that. They really go bananas with the airbrushing.
I mean, it feels like the same sort of art direction for the credit sequence in Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown.
Yeah,
that approach to gradation.
I'm so glad to be reminded of that book because that book just sits on my shelf. I haven't pulled it out in a long time, but it was a book that for the longest time was my go-to. Like that, I was just reading that every day. It was such a great volume of, and it's really that's why I'm so excited about this comic coming out because it is like getting to play. Even though the DuckTales world is like a slightly different universe from the pure Carl Barks world, it's still the same big sandbox, to play with those characters.
Not if you listen to Don Rosa, but but I did eventually get the original hardcover release of the book.
Yes. Now there is a book that's in my probably not unless a meteor is coming would I shell out the money to get. There's like a book called The Fine Art of Carl
Barks with his paintings.
It's the paint, yeah. It's the
which
Fine
Another
Art
Rainbow also released around. It was in conjunction with that hardcover.
The Fine Art of Walt Disney's Donald Duck, which the first result that came up is $1,300 off of abe.com, abbooks.com. Oh boy! Although Fantagraphics is coming out with this one of those big studio edition books where it's like the pencils, they're coming out with that like next summer for like $100. I'm like, oh god, there goes my money.
Well, you appreciate that also came with this hardcover.
Yes,
including.
I love those oil paintings. I love that. For me, what those represent was that they're not the world's greatest paintings or anything. They're not even like as good as his drawings.
Yeah, they're not even really on model to his. It's kind of like what happened with Chuck Jones towards the end of Chuck Jones's career.
Yeah, but what I like about both of those things is the way that because I do have a cell. I have like a Chuck Jones cell from that like limited edition era. And what I like is that during those eras, they were actually getting props for the body of work that they'd done. So like those oil paintings were the first time in his career that he was actually getting credited for all the work he'd created,
I mean, Celebration. I mean, speaking of Chuck Jones.
Oh, yes. Beautiful. And what is that from? Is that from?
This is from the Bugs Bunny show.
The Bugs Bunny show? Yeah, from the TV interstitials.
The how to animate,
Yeah, that's great. Well, speaking of that, segues perfectly into my final thing, which is from 1977. I plucked this right off my Christmas tree, and it's one of many ornaments that I have from that crop of ornaments. This is Daffy Duck, one of the greatest characters ever created, even though he exists as several different characters in a way.
Do you have a favorite?
I think I love the Chuck Jones version just because I love the Hunting trilogy so much. I love Daffy as the sort of like.
And what's your favorite of the Hunting trilogy?
Probably Rabbit Fire. It's not the most interesting choice out of the three, but it's just a perfect cartoon. Anyway, I have all of these, and I've had these since I was a kid. So I got these when I was 2. They're made in Japan.
And they're heavy duty ceramic.
They're heavy duty ceramic. They're hand painted in a way that each one, if you get one, you're not going to find another one that's exactly the same. But there's Bugs Bunny, Sylvester, Roadrunner, and Coyote. Yosemite Sam is a really heavy one. There's a really bizarre Elmer Fudd that looks like he's part of a white supremacy group. He's doing like a Nazi salute. It's entirely unintentional on the part of it's just like a bad, if you Google
it's bad posing of Elmer waving.
Yeah, it's bad posing of him saying hello. If you look up 1977 Elmer Fudd, honestly, I always put this guy on the back of my tree where I can't see him. Because I'm like, I know that Elmer Fudd he's not even the worst of as like villains go, you know? He's like this sort of hapless schmuck, you know?
Who was paying attention to the laws of the season. Like, he wasn't going to hunt when it wasn't a certain season.
Yeah, he has a softer side, you know? And he's a good owner to pets when he has a pet, you know? But they have Beaky Buzzard and Tweety and Speedy Gonzales.
It's weird, the 70s roster of who they thought were marketable characters as well.
Porky Pig, yeah. Well, yeah, because Beaky Buzzard is part of the mix, but it's not a Beaky Buzzard that ever appeared in a cartoon. The way he looks in the 70s is not the way Beaky Buzzard looked. It's like a new character. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Anyway, there was a period when I moved to New York and I was in an apartment building and we had storage in the basement of the building, and I had my Christmas ornaments in the storage, and the superintendent lady had gotten, it looked like she cleared it out and it looked like she threw away the box of my Christmas ornaments. And I remember the time thinking, I'm going to stop celebrating Christmas. I remember being so upset when I thought I had lost these ornaments, because I was like, I've had them since I could barely walk around. And I thought, I'm not going to reacquire them. I'm not going to, you can get any of these for 10 or 15
but it's
or 20
not the one that
each.
hung in your childhood tree.
And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. These are things that my mom and dad got for me when I was a very young child, and they made a little Christmas tree for me. And they had these ornaments at a time when these characters meant more to me than anything, because they were also like, these were the cartoons that my dad showed on his show, on his TV show. So they really felt like, I'm sure my mom was the one who got me them, but they felt connected to me through my dad as well. And when I think about Christmas, this is one of the first things I think about is these ornaments and the other handful of like Peanuts and Muppet ornaments that I also had from that time. But that's the one I picked off the tree today, because I really thought this one sort of like speaks to me in a way that even tying back to thinking about the Larry Sanders Show, that I feel like the Chuck Jones version of Daffy Duck is kind of like the Looney Tunes Hank Kingsley, or Hank Kingsley is the Daffy Duck of the Larry Sanders universe, to put it more accurately, I guess.
I think he's just trying to make some money. He's just trying to survive.
He's greedy.
He makes all the wrong choices. Selfish. He makes all the wrong choices, but he's just trying to survive.
He's a coward. But he's so funny.
But he also is self-aware. Like, the thing that was always the thing about Daffy is that Daffy would declare that he was selfish. He would declare that he was greedy. He wasn't trying to hide who he was.
No, he fully owned everything. Yeah.
And owned the consequences of his downfall. Yes,
very much so.
You know, and there's obviously that famous Chuck Jones quote about, you know, he wishes, you know, wants to say that he's Bugs Bunny, but knows that he's Daffy.
Yeah.
And that's sort of being the dynamic that, you know, we all have those aspirational moments when we hope, and then we have to accept the reality of our situations. And Daffy had to accept a lot of the reality of his situations.
100%. Yeah.
And so maybe one day you'll get to write a Daffy cartoon or a Daffy comic.
Who knows? You know, it was such a surprise. I never thought I'd write Stitch. I never thought I'd write DuckTales. There's a couple of things hopefully coming up that haven't been announced yet from Dynamite Comics. That because eventually, I think now that we have the first 4 Stitch issues out, I think the next step is the Dynamite usually collects 4 issues at a time in little paperback and hardcover book editions. So like some of these are going to end up in libraries, and I'll
or
put them
a
on
cherished object that a kid has in their collection.
I certainly I've gotten rid of a lot of stuff, but I have a lot of books and comics that I've had since I was very young that I would never get rid of if I can avoid it, and when you reopen them, even if it's just to flip through them briefly, they do kind of take you back. They are a connection to where you've been,
Oh, I have a copy of Chuck Amuck that every day in high school that was in my bag for any free moment to reread Chuck Amuck.
Yeah.
But that, I think, there's having that emotional connection to objects and knowing that we're the only one who can provide the context for what that connection is and what that meaning is. No one else, until this moment, would have known what the Gary Shandling story was, of why there was meaning behind that, and why that, held an extra special place beyond just being representative of Gary. But that's a moment of you newly arrived in New York in a transition period, setting up shop and making your place there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to think now here you are 25 years later, nearly there. And you got successful shows. You are in a far different place, but that was a journey. That was a start of a journey of you in that place.
Yeah. And you're wise to limit it to 6, because like ultimately we could keep going, both of us, with object after object. It's a nice thing to be able to take a moment to actually appreciate some of these things in their individual qualities.
Yeah, just remind yourself of why they meant something. Yeah. I mean, we both likes our stuff, but but yeah, so much of that retention is what it means, what was the moment that made it special for us.
Yeah.
So, and I think the same thing about entertainment. And I'll close up by saying that, George Lucas Talk Show, for a lot of folks, and for me during that weird period when we were all adrift during the pandemic and finding that during lockdown, and like this is a unique, positive, fun thing that you put together, just as you didn't set out a path to do that as a thing that got traction.
No, and in hindsight, it very clearly is recycling the pleasure, the joy that I got from Star Wars into another joyful thing. Because I think too often, especially Star Wars is a great example of something where a lot of people have taken the pleasure they got from Star Wars and often have sort of recycled it into something very like hard and negative. That there are people who enjoyed Star Wars for a certain period of time, and then it became a source of anger and grief for them. And for me, even the point where like a lot of the biggest joy that I've gotten from Star Wars hasn't even been from the Star Wars stuff that I like. It came from having fun with my observations of when Star Wars stopped being my main thing that I was into. When they stopped making Star Wars movies that were targeted at me, and what's crazy is the number of people who kind of can't see their Star Wars path, how much time they wasted being negative about a thing, because some of them were like, I loved Star Wars and I loved Empire Strikes Back. And then many decades later, a lot of those people loved Andor. But in between Andor and Empire Strikes Back, they spent decades making themselves miserable over a bunch of children's movies, that they were not in the right...
against George. I mean, people forget that there was a time when George was pop culture enemy number one.
Against George, and then later against the people that were not George enough for them. And, George was never going to make Andor. Like, he's not that kind of writer. He might have made something that had the same themes, he might have even produced something by someone who did something like Andor. But it's just crazy to me that if you enjoy
and that's
Empire
what
Strikes...
Clone Wars was.
Yeah.
I mean, Clone Wars was him turning over those reins on a lot of those themes and allowing writers to come in and explore a lot of that stuff. I mean, there's, you can't like Andor and not, if you give it a fair shake, go in and appreciate the stories in Clone Wars.
Sure. And for me, I'm very glad that I was able to make even my disappointment in Star Wars a thing of that makes me happy, a thing that makes me have fun, and that other people have fun with it, because it's sort of like a big buffet where if you got a plate full of food and you got all the things you wanted, why do you care if you can't eat anything else on the buffet? Like, if you got if your plate is full, look at the rest of that buffet and you see other people are liking the food that you don't like, don't be mad about that other food, Yeah,
you don't have to keep going back to it. It's okay.
You don't have to put anything on your plate that you don't want. And if you put something on your plate you don't like, you don't have to eat it.
And it doesn't have to sour the thing that you enjoyed earlier. Like, you can be fine with the fill that you had, and know that other people.
It's a big buffet.
Yeah, I think what you've done as far as celebrating George as maybe one of the last sort of iconoclastic artists who was able to make money off of it in any substantial form, that he then just plowed right back into maintaining that independence and just doing his thing. I mean, ultimately, him as a person, just, hey, I enjoy it. I'm doing the thing that I enjoy. I'm happy if some of you like it. In fact, I'll let some of you play in the playground too, but you got to understand, at the end of the day, this is why I made it for me.
Yeah.
And I always reserve the right to come back and have more fun with it in my fashion. If you like it, fine.
Yeah.
But I'm also not going to be like, he was never an asshole about it. I mean, that was also the remarkable thing. You've seen creative that will go and be belligerent about this being my vision. And if you don't like it, then no, George is also always just, no, this is just me. This is my thing. And I like it. And here it is. And now, I think it being a celebration of people embracing the creative things that they love and trying to be positive about even the things that were failures. Yeah. If there's one thing for George Lucas Talk Show as a viewer and a fan of what you all are doing, is that it's embracing the chaos and acknowledging that things can go wrong. But it doesn't mean that has to be an end for the thing. That you can just you have to understand it's a forward momentum. And I've seen plenty of you do plenty of shows that you've kept that forward momentum in the face of looming disaster. So kudos to you. And I hope you keep doing it for as long as you feel like doing it.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for supporting it.
Do you see a time, an end for it? Is that sort of in your view?
I don't have a plan for an end of it. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends, but no plan to end it.
Well,
right now the plan is for it to keep going indefinitely. So
I'm glad that you're diversifying, because I enjoy the acting classes. I look forward to the time maybe we can share my, high school production of 1942, where I played the part of Abner Dillon, the sugar daddy of the show, of which VHS footage exists.
Wow!
So I'll send that over to you. You'll love my big moments.
Wonderful.
Shot from the widest wide shot in the back of a high school auditorium.
Just little blobs of color on a VHS.
Yeah, it's all context.
I'm terrified that my device is going to run out of battery before it uploads fully.
Well, then we're gonna end it here. It's a good part, and we're right on, pretty much on time. So, Connor, thank you for doing this. I appreciate you being on the show. This is a reinforcement for everyone to go check out George Lucas Talk Show, Dead Eyes, the Stitch comic. Connor Ratliff presents the acting class. The podcast, if you can find it, and if you can, make sure you email deadeyespodcast@gmail.com and let him know that you found it, and then send a question in so he has content. Now that you found it, you got to have something to listen to, so help him provide the content for it. And go follow you on Blue Sky, where occasionally we hear more about Beverly Hills Bunce episodes.
That was one of the things that fell by the wayside, partly because I was trying to watch an episode every month, and there's not that many episodes to even get through. But then the content moderators on Blue Sky started blocking posts because there was no content reason to block it. It was really crazy. It takes so little to throw me off course these days.
Yeah, well, there's always the chance, as we saw with the pandemic and the George Lucas talk show. You can throw things at it and doesn't mean that it's going to end. So, cheers to you.
Thanks,
everyone, thanks for watching. Patreon.com/Ken Plume would be swell if you want to support this and go see a bunch of other stuff there. Like, subscribe. I hate this part of this. So I'm just going to wave and say goodbye as I press the stop button on this, and hope you all enjoyed it, and see you next time on something somewhere eventually. And so bye, everybody.
Bye.